Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. It's Sunday evening. Apologies, we've started slightly later than planned. And I know people are going to say what's new, but hey ho, I'm not going to offer any excuses. I think we were just getting technical issues sorted out. This is part 11 of our series of discussions on the topic of the Deobandi school of thought. It was thrust upon us by certain members of the Deobandi community, and since then we've set out responses which have addressed their false narratives and their deviancy in the manner in which they presented Shia texts, and we've placed their Aqidah under the microscope. On tonight's show, the panel for this evening are the same brothers that we always use. So we have Sayyid Zaidi here. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid. How are you?
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah,
I'm
alhamdulillah.
doing good.
Good. Yeah, all good with your du'as. And we have Sayyid Ali. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid Ali.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Good stuff, good stuff. You good?
Alhamdulillah, just getting used to this laptop. Unfortunately, I'm not really IT practice. So.
Good stuff, good stuff. For today's topics, we will inshallah ta'ala be continuing really. We've had a number of shows which have discussed the issue of takfir. We will inshallah ta'ala essentially today's going to be split into two parts. The second part will deal with that topic area, the issue of takfir. We have dealt with that is the third essential session around that topic area. But before we do so, and I know this is the part which is very popular with our viewers, we will be addressing an example of dishonesty or that has been presented by our opponents from the Deobandi sect. We tend to alternate between the Deobandi duo and dear Brother Haji. Last week we did address Brother Haji, but he has come back and he's become more and more vocal. So we thought we'll give him another dose this week. What can we say about Brother Haji? What can we say? The interesting thing is really when we talk about Brother Haji. Can you hear me? Sayyid Ali, can you hear me?
Yes, Sayyid. Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying the interesting thing is when we talk about Brother Haji, he doesn't seem to kind of nail. We don't really seem to understand what he is. What do I mean by that? You see, often when we try to sort of refute our opponent, we need to understand the position our opponent's coming from. With dear old Brother Haji, if you recall, when he appeared on the scene and he debated Brother Raza from the team on the issue of Qu'ran in Hyde Park, at that point in time, Brother Haji was very, very reluctant to actually state from which grouping he adhered to. Was he a Deobandi or was he a Salafi? Not really sure. And we've often between ourselves wondered ourselves, where does he, where is he actually, where are his loyalties, what's he based it on? But then when he joined the Sunni defense, he certainly did mention his adherence to the Hanfi sect, which gave us the kind of idea. Well, obviously, he said he mentioned that he'd been brought up under the Hanfi system, etc. So we knew that therein is a Deobandi. But part of the confusion comes about by the sort of tactics that he's been using of late. You see, when it comes to our friend Haji, we find it very interesting with Haji. His approach to to mocking Shiism, which is all his interest is in, is to have this low standard, low threshold of proof, which is just based on presenting the book, because he's got, as he's showing off, he's got this expansive book collection. So all he needs to do is produce that book, and that's proof in itself that here's your text and here's what the Shias believe. So that's his approach to presenting haqq, exposing Shiism by reading a text out. He's not interested in its authenticity at all. All he wants to do is quote it and then mock it. Now, that's his approach to refuting Shiism, to refuting a Shia text. But most interestingly, with dear brother Haji, when we use that same approach for him, he takes umbrage with it. This is what we find particularly amusing. He produced he tried to sort of mock our Shia system to say that we are Takfiris by presenting a text in a Shia source, which said that Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam is the most superior after the Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, and denial of that is Kufr. He wasn't interested in proving his authenticity. Rather, he argued authenticity is based on the fact that other ulama have also recorded the same narration. What did we do? I said it, Sayyid Zaidi said it, and Sayyid Ali said it last week when we did a rebuttal. We refuted it on exactly the same standards that he uses for us. He's not interested in looking authenticity, and guess what? We use exactly the same approach. You see, the tradition that he used against us, that wasn't Sahih either. We did exactly the same thing. And then immediately he was crying, jumping up and down like a spoiled child, saying, oh, why did we do that? Why did we do that? Why have we been dishonest? There's nothing dishonest there at all. We made it clear we were going to use the same approach as him. So when it comes to refuting Shi'ism, he has an approach which is a very kind of, it's not very academic at all, but, it's just basically quoting it in a Shia book is proof of the falsehood of Shi'ism. But when we use that same modus operandi against him, he goes, that's not fair. He wants us to use a more stricter standard of proof. That's not really very fair, is it? Sayyid Ali, do you have any comment on that point?
No, I think you kind of wrapped it up pretty well. I think, there was an issue about apparently there was the grading of the scholar mentioned at the bottom of the page, but we didn't mention that. See, the issue
we mentioned it very clearly. We went, Sayyid Zadi said we're not mentioning authenticity here. We're not going into it.
Exactly.
And in fact,
Said, can I talk? The only thing is that we were only discussing this quotation to be presented in their books. But if we do get chance, inshallah, in future, because we have so many things to do in future, we will be talking about this hadith and we will prove the authenticity of this hadith from their own books, right? And the other thing that I want to mention is that I saw one or two scans that mentioned that obviously we were quoting it, some of the reports were weak, but we also quoted the tradition from a book that we believed that was authentic. He didn't speak about it. He just picked up one scan and he forgot all the other scans that we were presenting before. So at the right time and at the right moment, we will be replying and we will be going through all these hadiths, all the chains and narration and all these things. But we do have a lot of things before us for now. Inshallah, time will come and we'll discuss this hadith in future.
Jazakallah, both of you for that. Very, very, very good. Thank you very much for that. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to say. When we come to dear brother Haji, one, we have confused.com. What are you? And the other thing is he wants to use a different standard of proof, refuting us, but he wants us to use a different standard, a more rigorous one. And then what I find particularly amusing is he wants to impose his interpretation of traditions and wants the Shia community to accept that interpretation because he's telling us this is his interpretation and it's the correct one. So he did that with the Qur'an narration, which we will address, inshallah, touch on today. We've already refuted him. We feel perfectly well, but because his argument is because I'm saying this, it makes sense. So he's trying to impose that tradition. We will, inshallah, address that. But then also we noticed the other day, which I found most amusing, after a long period of time, I think, I don't know how many months, 6 or 7 months, very early on, Sayyid Ali worked on the Tawheed series. And in one of them, he was particularly addressing the Salafi school, which believe in literalism when it comes to narrations on Tawheed. And in particular, he addressed the concept of the shadow of the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Is that correct, Sayyid Ali? That was what you was talking about, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, as you mentioned, I don't really want to go into too much detail because I didn't really get to finish what I was trying to say before. And that was, okay, so, yeah, he would normally argue something on the basis that, oh, well, it didn't stop other scholars from narrating something.
Oh, yeah, good point.
It must be true. So, as you rightly said, we presented the same tradition in, multiple sources from their books. Our issue is not about the issue of authenticity, because as you had already demonstrated before in your own video, that you said this narration is not authentic. It's not authentic. So you admitted that yourself. So likewise, we just, the same reason why you felt need to make the video, right? Because you wouldn't make a video unless you believe that there was some sort of basis to it. That's your whole idea, right? You say you use this academic approach and you're sincere, but your actions say otherwise. You understand? Your actions say otherwise. And it's the case with this recent video somebody forwarded me, which was a supposed refutation to a video I did over a year ago, where we were discussing primarily on focusing on the Ash'ari Aqidah. I mean, these terminologies, to be honest with you, most some of our Sunni brothers and sisters probably won't know what that is. So within Sunnism, you have different schools of theology. So when you approach literature, some people take the literal approach where they would take the text literal. So where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran that he has a hand, they would say, no, he has a hand. Say that, can you mute your microphone because I'm getting interference?
Okay. Sorry, I'll do it now.
No, you're still not mute. You oh, brilliant. Okay. Yeah, sorry, brothers. Just on a quick point, Sayyid Zaidi and Sayyid Hassan need to ensure that we keep the microphone mute, not only for the viewers, but between ourselves. Otherwise, we'll constantly get interrupted. So yes, this show I did almost a year ago, I believe. And as I said to you, we were primarily dealing with the Ash'ari community. And yes, sometimes I do feel with Brother Haji, he likes to jump the boat. And what I mean by this is, depends what sort of mood he's in. One day he'd behave like a Salafi, another day he'd go on like he's a Deobandi. So first we need to ask, obviously, what's his position? What do you believe about the Sifat of Allah? Do you take them to be literal, or do you apply ta'wil to it? So when we have these traditions in our books, where it mentions Allah's throne, or where it mentions Allah's hands, etc., etc., we as 12 Shias, we have always taken the position that we don't take these reports to be literal. Okay, just as the same way the Ash'aris do not take the hands of Allah to be literal. In fact, some of the Sunni ulama, some of the Sunni scholars even rejected that God had a throne altogether. But again, that's a discussion for another time. But the point being is, you pick up a book, for example, like Al-Khisal, you quote Abu Huraira, which firstly, since when do Shias take Abu Huraira to be an authority? And then you quote Al-Khisal under the number 7, I think it was, seven people, I believe, the 7 people who will fall under the shade of Allah. But did you go and check what's written under number 3? Because the very narrator which you're bringing forth as evidence to say, well, okay, these 7 people will be shaded under Allah, Zawjal, and this narrator, Abu Huraira, for example, Abu Huraira was called a lion, Al-Khisal. Go look, go pick up. Since you say you have a large amount of Shia books, and apparently that becomes evidence that, well, I seem to know Shias better than you. That's ridiculous. I have a massive books. I probably have more Deobandi books than you do. Or I probably have more Deobandi books than, the 2 sheikhs. But the point being is, there's even Orientalists out there who have thousands of books on Islam, and they constantly attack Islam. Having large books doesn't mean anything. The Bani Israel, they were compared to donkeys because they used to carry stacks of books and they used to walk around headless. But the point being is, I think I don't want to spend too much time on that particular video. But yeah, I mean, as I said, sometimes I feel as if, Brother Haji doesn't even actually listen to what the arguments are. I would recommend him to actually go back and listen to the Tawheed series, go back, listen to our arguments in the previous show. We were discussing these narrations, and please try to understand the argument. Because I don't think you understand the argument. I don't think you understand what is actually going on. Inshallah, from this show, we can, you know, hopefully you'll take note on this show, and maybe you can, you know, present your side of the argument and, you know, explain your interpretation on these traditions. But anyway, I didn't want to spend too much time on Bro Haji, because for me, he's not really a relevant topic, to be honest with you. Sayyid Hassan, please continue. Sayyid Hassan?
Apologies, yeah. Sorry about that. I think, sorry, that we did need to go through this point. I think it was it needed to be said. Apologies if we went on a little bit on that. It was, but I think this rant was justified, because we're about to now address another one of Haji's comedy clips. He thinks he's really, really funny when he quotes Shia traditions. You saw that with that particular tradition about visiting the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam. So this is almost along the same sort of lines. It's a particular tradition. Sayyid Ali, should we quote the tradition first?
No,
do you want to go through the video first, and then I'll do my back commentary?
I think the best thing to do is just play the clip, and we just let the viewers listen to what he's got to say, and then we can perhaps respond to it. Yeah?
That's fine.
Yeah. So if your brothers just mute your microphone. Just give me a minute. You should be able to see it now. So I'm going to play you the clip.
It's basically meaning the reward of actions and the punishment of actions. So it's split into two parts. Now, this chapter is in the bab of thawab al-a'mal, meaning the reward. I'll place all the hadith or the ahadith in the description box, so you can check the seven. Okay, so let's get to the narration. The narration is, and Hanan bin Sadir قال دخلت على أبي عبد الله عليه السلام وعلي النعل السوداء. He goes that I entered upon Abi Abdullah alayhi salam, and I had on black sandals. Okay, I had on black sandals. فقال, and Abi Abdullah said to him, ما لك ولبس النعل السوداء? What is wrong with you that you're wearing black sandals? Okay. أما علمت أن فيها ثلاثة خصال? Do you know that wearing black sandals has three characteristics, three attributes? Okay. Didn't know about that. And he responded by saying, وَمَا هِيَ جُعِلْتُ فِدَاءَ? What are they? May I be sacrificed for you? So Abi Abdullah responded by saying, تُضْعَفُ الْبَصَرِ. It weakens your eyesight, wearing black sandals. And it weakens your sexual appetite. Hold on. Oh my God. So what's the solution? The Imam said, so it's upon you to wear yellow sandals, slippers, yellow. Okay? So what are the three characteristics of the yellow sandals? And you heard what the scholars said of yours regarding the yellow sandals. He mentioned those three attributes, and they are. So he was asked, so the individual asked, what are these three characteristics now? قال تحد البصر. It improves your vision. Yellow sandals. It improves your vision. And it increases your sexual drive. It removes your depression. Yellow sandals, slippers. And then the narration ends by saying, وَهِيَ مَعَ ذَلِكَ لِبَاسِ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. And on top of that, it's the clothing of the Anbiya. So let's now do something special for you. This is the level of Saduq. It's not just in here. You can't just say Hajj is just quoting this one obscure narration. Let's go.
Do you see his approach? So have you noticed? At no point he's actually given the grading of the hadith. So what he does is he's just showing, okay, well, it's in this book, and because it's mentioned in another book, then it must be true. But okay, that's no problem. It's fine. We just show the other book he mentions.
Go to another book. This is Al-Khisar from Sheikh Saduq, okay? And he wrote Thawab al-A'mal, so he wrote this book as well. And you know what? You know what's interesting? He's also put it in here as well. The exact same narration is here. There you go, right here. We've got Thawab al-A'mal of Sheikh Saduq, and we've got also Al-Khisar of Sheikh Saduq. Does it just stop there? No, it doesn't. So let's quote another book here. This is Wasail al-Shi'a by Hur al-Amali. And you do know the Wasail al-Shi'a is the secondary source. So the primary source is here, what I just quoted here. This is the secondary source. And he quotes the same narration but puts it under two different categories. The first is, so he puts the whole chapter here, and he puts the hadith inside here, and look what it says here, right here. Rawah Saduq bi Thawab al-A'mal wa fi Khisar. So you notice he's quoting these two books, referring back to, this is a secondary source. So here you go. He referred back to Thawab al-A'mal and Al-Khisar, and I've got both books in my hand here. So Khaji's not just quote obscure narration. Okay, so now if you skip the page, you've got the chapter, al-Bab, al-Istihbab, Labis al-Na'l al-Safra, that the recommendation of wearing yellow sandals. So you just need to skip one page forward and one page back. And guess what? If that's the chapter heading there, you skip to the next page, Rawah Saduq bi Thawab al-A'mal, Rawah and wa fi Khisar, to give you the lead for these two particular books, and then Hur al-Amali courses. First the watermelon, now black sandals, foot throws, Eunice in the whale of the belly of the whale,
Okay, so these are the other videos. Inshallah, at some point we can deal with them. So as the viewers can hear, his objection, or well, he found it funny that we have these traditions, and because they're mentioned in a few books, which makes it authentic according to his criteria, which is no problem. We can just deal with the tradition itself. If you wear yellow slippers, it helps with if you wear black sandals, it weakens your vision, it weakens your sexual drive, and obviously if you wear yellow slippers, it has a different effect on you. And it says that in the video description as well. Black sandals weaken vision, weaken sexual drive. Sayyid Hassan.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I should have warned viewers earlier, but I'll say it now. Some of the content in this part of the show is going to be quite adult. So if we do have, if people are listening with younger viewers, it'd be best to sort of get them to bed or switch off for the time being and tune in later on for the when the show comes on the channel later, because obviously we are dealing quite with adult content, and particularly part of the rebuttal. Now, I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion on this one before we actually go into the narration. You see, unfortunately, Haji has a tendency to just joke and think everything is funny without actually looking deeper into this topic for ourselves as the adherents of Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam. What this tradition actually does do, it actually proves the immense knowledge that our Imam alayhi salatu wasalam actually had, and it actually shows that he's a true inheritor of the knowledge of the Prophet. And I'll tell you why. Because that thing that Amir al-Mu'minin is talking about the influence of color on an individual, in this day and age, it has actually been proven through research. And I'm not talking about the narration to the word to word. What I'm talking about is ample research. Ample research in the world of psychology has found a direct link between color and mood. Okay? In fact, it's used in psychology, something which is called art therapy. They're like it's commonly noted you get psychological effects of color. They relate to two main categories, but I'll touch on that afterwards. I mean, this is certainly something that I can talk about, but it's very, very well known that the psychology of color is based on mental and emotional effect colors have on people. So a color can affect mood. It can affect you mentally and emotionally. Did you know, for example, I know it's well known in research as well, studies, that surroundings, they can affect your state of mind and your emotions. So a place might irritate you, and it's often linked to color. There's a good chance that color has that nexus, that influence. If you look at art therapy, which is often used for people suffering from depression, for example, color is often associated with the person's emotions. Color may influence a person's mental or their physical state. For example, studies have shown that some people looking at the color red results in an increased heart rate, which can then lead to an additional adrenaline being pumped into the bloodstream. So that's something how color creates an influence. And there's commonly noted psychological effects of color. It relates to two main categories, warm and cool. Warm colors such as red, yellow, and orange can spark a number of emotions, ranging from comfort and warmth to hostility and anger. Then you have cool colors such as green, blue, and purple that can create like feelings of how would I say, calmness. And I'll tell you why, because even it's known psychologically. Do you know some forms of depression are linked to changes in climate, in changes in weather, dark clouds, grey skies, can create sort of forms of depression. So again, it can affect somebody's mood. And that is well known. That can have a negative, colours can have a negative and a positive effect on somebody. In fact, which is why it's often known that there are some colours which can create types of attraction and arousal. For example, the colour red has a certain type of attraction to a person. I think that's quite well known. Whereas the colour black is associated with being sad in a state of mourning. So that creates a different type of feeling and emotion. So colours have a nexus to one's physical health, mental health. And I'll tell you something. This is something that people like Haji, they don't seem to understand. And we will address this point. Think of it logically. They're saying, oh, well, if you, how can a colour have a mental and physical effect on somebody? Let me explain something to you. If a colour, for example, a dark colour, brings out a negative effect on somebody where it creates depression, okay? Does depression just have a mental effect, or does it also have a physical effect? I challenge anybody who understands what depression is. And unfortunately, in this day and age, it's a very, very common problem. We all know somebody that suffers from depression. Does depression, have a mental or physical effect? The answer is it has both. It has a knock-on effect. A person that suffers from depression becomes lethargic. It can affect their mood, not just mentally, but physically. Lethargy is a big problem. They don't want to do anything. And in fact, you could look at research studies. So the effect of that also means it leads to a lower sex drive. For example, you have couples which are in a married relationship. The person suffering from depression, it affects their libido. So there is a connection between colours, mental and physical effects. That isn't anything unusual. So if Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam, through his knowledge, has said that certain types of colours have an effect on an individual, that is in not any way something that should be mocked and laughed at. That has actually been proven in this day and age from research studies. Okay, so there are particular psychological effects of warm colours, and there's psychological effects of cool colours. So this is not something that is out of the extraordinary. Something, colours is used in rooms. For example, certain types of colours attract you to go into a certain type of room, or they create an atmosphere. And they're often even used in marketing. Colours are used to attract people. So this is not unusual. If Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam has made a distinction between one colour to the other and its effects, it's nothing which is unusual. It's nothing which is all because this individual's intellect is beyond that person's intellect, and he finds it funny and unbelievable. Research studies have confirmed the nexus between colour and psychological and mental effects. So I think that really, I could, this is something that interests me. I could go on and on, but we don't need to. I think that really is my background intro. Let's go into the narration itself. Sayyid Ali, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think you've summed it up pretty well. That's obviously just dealing with the topic of color. And as you said, in fact, you know what? These are actually traditions which mention prohibition on females wearing red, die-hard red color, because it's known as being an attractive color. So if color didn't have an effect on people, then why would women be told not to wear red, for example? But yeah, I think you've summed it up quite beautifully. I think now we can kind of jump to the traditions, because, you know, is there something in their books which mentions, you know, the topic of slippers or sandals, wearing yellow sandals? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to screen share for the viewers, inshallah, and you'll be able to see a document in front of you. And here you go. Sayyid Zaidi, did you want to start?
Yes, Sayyid. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So I would be quoting few of their scholars, Mufassirun, that have talked in the same way as it's mentioned by Hajji from our books, right? So first quotation will be from At-Tafsir Al-Bahr Al-Muhit, from Al-Bahr Al-Muhit. Give me 1 second, let me get the page. Yeah, Al-Bahr Al-Muhit fi Tafsir. It's volume number 1, published by Darul Fikr, and page number 409 by Abu Hayyan Al-Andalusi.
Sorry, Said, give me a second.
So
1 second, Said. Sorry, apologies. I don't think it was coming up on the screen for the viewers to see. Just showing it out for you guys now.
Said, I can read the Arabic text in the meantime, and inshallah with the English translation you can go. Okay, it's already there. That's good. So Abu Hayyan says, وَجَمْهُورُ الْمُفَسِّرِينَ يُشِيرُونَ إلى أن الصفرة من الألوان السارة، ولهذا كان علي كرم الله وجهه يرغب في النعال الصفر. وقال ابن عباس الصفرة تبسط النفس وتذهب الهم. وكان ابن عباس أيضا يحض على لبس النعال الصفر. ونهى ابن زبير ويحيى بن أبي كثير عن لباس النعال السود لأنها تهم. Yes, Sayyid, go through the translation, please.
Sure. So Alama Abu Hayyan Andalusi, he says, the majority of commentators have said that yellow is a color of joy. Ha ha ha. We should all laugh at this point. Ha ha ha. Yellow is a color of joy. And this is the reason why Imam Ali alayhi salam used to encourage people to wear yellow slippers. Ibn Abbas says that the yellow color brings happiness to a person and takes away the sadness. Moreover, Ibn Abbas also used to encourage people to wear yellow slippers, and Ibn Zubair, Yahya ibn Abi Kathir have prohibited people to wearing black as it brings sadness. So this is volume 1, page 409.
Yes, Sayyid. The second quotation from Al-Allama Alusi al-Baghdadi from Ruh al-Ma'ani fi Tafsir al-Quran al-Azim, volume number 1, page number 289. It's the same quotation. I think it's same thing mentioned. Actually, there is there is no difference in words. But anyways, I'll just repeat it again. Same thing. وجمهور المفسرين يشيرون إلى أن الصفرة من الألوان السارة، ولهذا كان علي كرم الله وجهه يرغب في نعال الصفر. وقال ابن عباس الصفرة تبسط النفس وتذهب الهم. وكان ابن عباس أيضا يحض على لبس النعال الصفر. ونهى ابن زبير ويحيى بن أبي كثير عن لباس النعال السود لأنها تهم. Same thing. Yes, Said, go through the translation, please.
From Tafsir Ruh al-Mani from Alama Alusi Baghdadi, and he says the majority of the commentators, and he's talking about the commentators of the Holy Quran, the majority of the commentators, Sunni commentators, not Shi'a, said, obviously these are all Sunni texts. The majority of Sunni commentators, the majority of commentators have said that yellow is the color of joy. And this is the reason why Imam Ali alayhi salam used to encourage people to wear yellow slippers. Ibn Abbas says that yellow color brings happiness to a person and it takes away the sadness. Moreover, Ibn Abbas also used to encourage people to wear yellow slippers, and Ibn Zubair, Yahya ibn Kathir have prohibited people to wear black as it brings sadness. Ruhul Mani, Tafsir Ruhul Mani, Volume 1, page 289.
Yes, Sayyid. So the third reference is from غذاء الألباب شرح منظومة الآداب. Is from Safarini Al-Hambali, volume number 2, published by Darul Kutub Al-Ilmiya, Beirut, page number 264. I won't go through the whole Arabic text, but he says, he puts up a chapter name, يستحب كون النعال أصفر والخف أحمر أو أسود. Yes, sir. Just go through the translation. I think will be good enough.
Okay. So it says the topic. It's recommended to wear yellow slippers with red or black socks. Our scholars have said it is recommended to wear yellow sandals with red or black socks. And it's quoted from Yahya ibn Abi Kathir that wearing black sandals will inherit problems. Should we go to the next one?
Yes, Sayyid. But before we go, we can talk about this concept of the connection between the creation and the a'mal, or the things that we do as being prescribed by Sharia. The thing is that they are mocking, okay, this, if we do this act, it will lead to this thing and that thing. But we need to get this concept clear in our mind. There is a connection between taqween and tashri', as they say. If we do certain kind of actions, that will lead to certain kind of reaction in creation. So that's not something which is really weird. So that's why we say, like, if you give sadaqah, your age will be increased by 30 years, 40 years. And if you do qat'a ta'alluq or qat'a irham, that will lead to, depreciation of the age by 10 years, 20 years, depending. So that's not something which is really weird. But obviously, Haji being brought up in West don't know about these things, unfortunately. He hasn't gone through his own text, right? Anyways, that's not our topic for now, but now we will be quoting what is the significance of slippers itself. See, the reference that I have in front of me, Tarikh al-Baghdad. Tarikh al-Baghdad is a famous Tarikh Madinat al-Islam, or Tarikh al-Baghdad as they say, is written by Khatib al-Baghdadi. So the edition that I have, there are two editions for this book. One is published by in Beirut, Darul Kutub al-Ilmiya, as far as I know. I think that will be, the reference will be in volume number 13, as far as I remember. And this quotation will be from volume number 15. And page number, give me 1 second, brother. So yeah, so page number 509. And the researcher of the book is Bashar Awad Ma'ruf, Dr. Bashar Awad. And Dr. Bashar Awad says about this tradition, Isnaduhu Sahih. The chain of the narration is Sahih, but then he says, oh, that's not possible from Abu Hanifa to say this. But that's another topic for another day. But at least we know that the chain of this tradition is authentic. So what does Abu Hanifa says, right? Abu Hanifa says, 1 second, yeah. Give me 1 second, brother. My laptop is working really slow. حدثنا أبو مسهر قال حدثنا يحيى بن حمزة وسعيد يسمع أن أبا حنيفة قال لو أن رجلا عبد هذه النعل يتقرب بها إلى الله لم أرى بذلك بأسا. Yes, Sayyid, go through it. Go through the translation.
So it says, Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi mentions, Abu Hanifa, it's allowed to worship slippers. So this is obviously a subheading which I've done myself. It doesn't say that in the text, but you'll see that this is what the text says. Khatib al-Baghdadi quote Abu Hanifa saying, if a person worships this slipper or worships a slipper to get closer to Allah Azza wa Jal, then I don't see any problem with it. See, Brother Haji had problems with people wearing yellow slippers because it can increase their, it could help towards their sex drive. But according to the statement, your Imam Abu Hanifa, according to the Sahih tradition, he said that you can even worship a shoe to get closer to Allah. So what's the issue? Is it worse to worship a shoe to get closer to Allah, or is it worse to wear yellow slippers to potentially help to correct a medical issue, such as impotency?
Thank you. The interesting thing is in this narration, Sayyid Zadi, I'm going to ask you to confirm this. It says that he asked him if a person worships a shoe. So we're not talking about worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here, correct?
Yeah.
He's saying worshipping a shoe.
Yeah, it is
correct.
It says لو أن رجلا عبد هذه النعل يتقرب بها إلى الله, right? Or يتقرب بها إلى الله. Sorry, that will be the right pronunciation. That if he wants to get, if he's seeking closeness towards Allah, if this slipper, right, this هذه النعل,
you should
أرى بذلك بأسا.
practically be taking those slippers of the Shia, the yellow slippers, and you should be using it as a means to get closer to Allah. Why do you have problems with people wearing yellow slippers when you can practically worship them, or you can use them to get close to Allah?
Well, why do they have issue with the Shias taking a wasila of the Imams? We at no point do we say we worship the Imams, but you are your Imam Abu Hanifa is talking about worshipping a shoe to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a big distinction between we take wasila that because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with these individuals, we take their names as a intermediate, form of intercession. You are actually worshipping a shoe to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What's shirk here then?
Should we laugh at that? You have problems with people wearing slippers, but you can use a shoe to get closer to God. MashaAllah.
Yeah, mashallah.
Very interesting. I think we do say Ya Ali, Ya Rasulallah, Madadi, or Ya Ali Madad. Ya Chappal Madad would be a different other slogan that should come in.
Exactly.
Anyways, now we'll move forward. Now we will be giving them the recipe. You see, like they were laughing a lot, and I don't know who's the other guy who is always in the video and laughing in a really weird way. But anyways, that's for another day. Now we'll be quoting what is Deobandi recipe to get the private part bigger, right? Or stretch out. It's from Bahishti Zevar. And honestly, the English version of Bahishti Zevar, I don't think so. It mentioned this shit. Sorry for my language. It doesn't mention this thing.
It's taken out.
Yeah, it's not there in English, so we have to rely upon Urdu ones. So I do have an apology for the readers and for the listener. At the same time, they should realize that it was so embarrassing for them that they didn't put in the English translation. Anyways, we do have the Urdu translation with us. The Urdu book with us. It's Bahishti Zevar, page number 736, published by Islamic Book Service. It says Chand Mutafarriq. I mean, it's the 11th part of this book. It says Uzu mein darazi lane wala. Uzu means the private part, the penis, and how to stretch it further. चूंटे बड़े बड़े 7 अदद कब्रिस्तान में से लाएं और एक एक को मार कर फौरन 2 तोला रोगन चंबेली खालिस में डालते जाएं, फिर शीशी में करके काक मजबूत लगाकर एक दिन रात बकरे की मेंगनियों में दफन करें। अल्लाह। फिर निकाल कर खूब रगड़ें कि चूंटे तेल में हल हो जाएं, फिर नीम गरम मलें। तरकीब मलने की ये है कि पहले उज़ू को तरकीब मलने की ये है कि पहले उज़ू को एक मोटे कपड़े से खूब मलें। जब सुर्खी पैदा हो जाए फौरन ये तेल मल कर छोड़ दें। 15-20 रोज ऐसा ही करें. Yes, Sayyid, go ahead.
Okay. So
and by the way, before you go to the translation,
at least we have a remedy for potentially impotency, which is wearing yellow slippers, which you found funny.
Now, Sayyid, before we move forward, let me give a brief introduction. There is a really famous book. I think I have mentioned it talking to someone. I don't remember if I was talking here. It's a really, really famous book. And this is given as a gift to Deobandi sisters and the people that are to be married soon. So this is a book not for the male. This is a book for female, specifically.
Yeah.
You see, that's the point. This is the book specifically for the female, and the solution that Maulana Thanvi is giving is, I mean, like, how can a sister even read this?
Let me read it. Okay, let me read this.
Go ahead, Sayyid.
So it's a bridal gift, basically.
It's a bridal gift. Bridal gifts. Yes, Sayyid.
And this section is for a man that can't deliver the goods. Okay.
Yeah, I think for bridal shower it will be a good thing to show to this page. In case if you have a problem, I have a really good solution for you guys.
Exactly.
Ashraf Ali Thanvi, he says, go to a graveyard. So he's not clear which type of graveyard, whether it could be a Muslim graveyard or non-Muslim graveyard. We don't know about this. He says, go to a graveyard and bring back 7 big ants. Big, juicy ants. Yeah? Kill them one by one. Almost like it's some sort of sacrifice. Kill them one by one. And put them in jasmine oil in a bottle. Then bury the bottle in goat's dropping for day and night. The next day, take out the mix these ants properly in the oil. Then you rub your private parts, meaning you rub your penis with this oil, with this thick cloth until it's reddish. Then massage this oil on it and leave it for 20 minutes. Okay, let me read this again, sorry. Go to the graveyard, bring back 7 big ants, kill them one by one, put them in jasmine oil in a bottle, then bury the bottle in goat's dropping for a day and night. The next day, take it out and mix these ants properly in the oil. Rub your private parts with thick cloth until it's reddish. Then you massage this oil on it and leave it for 20 minutes.
Say one small correction here. So it doesn't say 20 minutes. I think that was mistranslation.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That was from
me. Yeah. So it says that 15-20 roz aisa hi kare. You have to practice this thing 15-20 days.
Yeah. 15,
so
20.
That's a whole course.
It's like a 20-day prescription.
So you tell me, is this better? Is wearing yellow slippers, which you found funny and humorous, better option, or wearing? Okay, look, I now keep bringing back this narration about Dhukar Rijal. And by the way, he didn't mention the issue about past and future sins. He ignored that part. And how does it rationally even prove? How would your penis expand on wood? We don't know that. We already explained to our viewers that it means the noblest of men will be risen on wood. Till today, I've never heard any Shia scholar who's given a cure for impotency by saying to the people, yeah, go for ziyarah and your penis will be inflated on wood. Till date, I've never heard any Shia scholar. If you got one, please bring him forward and present him as evidence. We'd like to see, even from our classical scholars, no problem. But here, you have very explicitly got one of the biggest founders of the Deobandi movement saying that you should rub ant oil on your penis as a solution to impotency.
And who knows, Haji is using it. I don't know.
If
he's not using it, I think he starts using. Should start using it now.
Somebody is definitely using it, that's for sure.
But somebody who uses that for 20 days, it might cause a lot of itching, though. That's one thing I'd have to say. I'm not sure what sort of how effective that would be on one front.
No wonder. Look, so no wonder you guys have no issues in going into a masjid and looking at a woman's vagina with lust, because you're rubbing ant oil clearly on your penis. How do you? Okay, so a hypothetical situation: a man who rubs ant oil in his penis, can he lead the salah?
I don't think so.
I don't think
No,
No.
he'll be too gifted then.
he'd be too gifted then. And technically, he wouldn't. So you can look at a woman's vagina with lust. You can rub ant oil on your penis. You know, you rather think about ox and donkey in your salah than the Holy Prophet. What kind of religion is this?
Sayyid, I think we need to have a practical
Demonstration.
depiction of it, inshallah. Yeah,
No, thank
demonstration
you.
of it, inshallah. Yeah, I mean, the next scan that's coming in, I think, will be a good demonstration for this thing.
Yeah, you
Let's
got me
just
worried there for
use.
a second.
You know what?
Yeah. I think.
I didn't have the book to hand today, but there's actually a book written by a Salafi scholar from the Indo-Pak country. It's called I think it's called Kitab
Uh,
al
Ada'u. Yes, Sayyid, it's the Arabic name is Ada'u wa Dawa. It's
That's the
Kitab
one.
Ta'widat when it's
That's the
translated.
one. And it's interesting.
Ta'widat.
The author mentions in the introduction of the book, he says, everything I have within here is being established authentically from Quran and Sunnah. And then later on, he mentions a remedy for impotence, for an individual, a man who's impotent. So what he says is, when you see a male and female dog or in action, what you do is you cut off the tail, and then you bury the tail in the ground, and after a certain amount of days, you take the tail out, and the tail becomes hard, and you attach a string to it, and then when it comes to obviously the time of like sex, you wrap it, you tie it around your waist while you having sex. These are the type of remedies you guys have for dealing with people who are impotent, and you're crying about people wearing yellow slippers, and you're finding it funny. Like, who are you to impose your worldview? Who are you to take the moral high ground? Your religion is filthy. Is this your religion? Rubbing ant oil on your penis and going to masjids and being allowed to look at women's vagina with lust, tying dog's tails around your waist when it comes to sleeping with women. What type of religion is this? Okay, let's go to the next reference. Let's wrap this up. I think we spent too much time on ant oil and dog's tails.
Sayyid, the next to it, we need to give the introduction to it. Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Sahab has written a book called Jamal al-Awliya. It's published by Idara Islamiyat, Lahore, Karachi, Pakistan, and it's a mulakhas, which means it's a concise form of the book that's written by Sheikh Yusuf ibn Ismail al-Nabahani. The name of the book is Jami' Karamatul Awliya from so Thanvi really liked that book, and he came up with his own version, putting the book in a concise form. And when he started this discussion, when he was writing this book, uh, he praised Sheikh Abu Yusuf or Sheikh Yusuf ibn Ismail al-Nabahani, and he praised him. And I think if you go through the page here, it mentions here, like, page basically in the introduction in Tamheed. He says that بعد الحمد والصلاة جامع کرامات الأولیاء किताब है जिसको शेख अबू यूसुफ इब्न इसली से जायद कुतुब मोतबरा से लेकर 1324 हिजरी में तालीफ फरमाया है, जिस मकसूद के लिए मैंने रौज़ा जुमा कराया है, जो नुज़हतुल बसतैन के लक़ब से शाया है। इसी गर्ज़ की तक़वियत के लिए इस किताब का तर्जुमा कराने का भी ख्याल आया, मगर बाज़ ख़ास इलल आखिर। So he that Nabhani has used 40 authentic books to compile Jami' Karamatul Awliya. So you can see it's such an authentic book for the Sufia, or for Deobandis, and for everyone, like Deobandis, Brelvis, they all rely on this book. So now, Jami' Karamatul Awliya is volume number 1, page 100, page number 396, 397. It's published by Markaz Ahl Sunnah Barkate Rada from India, Gujarat. And it says, وَمِنْ كَرَامَاتِهِ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ مَا أَخْبَرَنِي بِهِ الْحَاجِ إبراهيم المذكور قال دخلت في هذا النهر إلى الحمام مع شيخنا الشيخ علي العمري ومعنا خادمه محمد الدبوسي الطرابلسي وهو أخو إحدى الزوجات الشيخ سيدنا. I'm not going through the whole Arabic text. I think we already spent so much time. Just go through the translation.
I'm going to go through the translation. So as you can see, this book is a highly respected book. The author is well known, respected. And so is the individual who we're going to talk about, his story. So Al-Nabhani mentions our Sheikh Ali Al-Umari, Al-Shabrulusi. You need to mute your microphone, brothers. So, and it continues, it says, the most famous of the awliya of the time, and the one having the most karamat, so-and-so, so-and-so. And among his karamat, may Allah be pleased, amongst his karamat is what Al-Hajjaj Ibrahim mentioned before. Said, I came one day to a hammam, a public bath, with our Sheikh Al-Umari, and with us there was a khadim, a servant, Muhammad Dubusi at-Tabrusli. He is a brother of one of his wives of the Sheikh, and there was no other than us in the hammam. So it was these group of people in this public bath of some kind. He said, from the Sheikh Karamat, among the most amazing, I can't even pronounce the word there. So amongst the most amazing miracles or the signs is that he became angry with his servant. So he's talking about Sheikh Umari. He became angry with his servant, and this Muhammad and desired to punish him. So look how he punishes his servant. The Sheikh took his own penis with his both hands below his izar. So he grabbed his penis with both his hands, and it became very long until it exceeded his shoulders. MashaAllah. It became longer than him. His penis became longer than him. And he started to beat his khadim. Mention, the khadim was shouting because of the intensity of the pain for being whipped by this man's penis. And he did this many times. Then he left him. And the penis returned to the fist size. And I understood that the khadim indeed did something deserving of punishment. In other words, he deserved to be whipped with a penis. And he punished him with this amazing form. And when Hajjaj Ibrahim narrated this to me, he narrated this in the presence of our Sheikh. And the Sheikh was aware. The Sheikh was aware of the story. The Sheikh said to me, do not trust him, but check before. Then he took my hand by force and he put it on the place of his penis. And I didn't feel anything. I'm surprised. As if he was not a man at all. So guys, there you have it. You have stories of the sheikhs beating their students with their penises outstretched, even bigger than them. You know, just too much ant oil or whatever remedy. Maybe this guy had yellow slippers on. Maybe he had dog's tail on. Maybe he was rubbing ant oil on his penis. But whatever it was, this individual, their sheikh, was respected. This book, which is praised, yeah, their sheikhs were beating people with their penises. Guys, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that, but
I'm just wondering whether this guy might be in the next Marvel Avengers film. What do you think?
Karamata awliya, the awliya perform miracles where they beat people with their penises. MashaAllah. What kind of, seriously, what, honestly? He definitely can't lead the salah. This guy definitely.
Yeah, that's out of the question.
That's out of the question, totally. You know?
I think, does that conclude it really on this topic?
Yeah, I mean, I think we could dedicate a whole show on penises, as you can see, but it's not relevant because, you know, expanding, okay, let's just hypothetically speaking, your penis becomes expanded wood. That should be the least of your worries. You should be more concerned about people beating each other with penises and rubbing ant oil on their private parts and putting dog's tails on. Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you very much, both of Sayyids here on that. I think that is a decent enough rebuttal for Brother Haji, and I hope, inshallah, he ponders over what we've said and comes to understand that before trying to sort of turn everything into a comedy, he needs to look much in more depth at his own sources, and obviously there's more to it. You need to look into it. You know, there is a deeper meaning behind traditions, and if he was to kind of remove that spectacle of bias and prejudice that seems to be his almost raison d'etre behind his channel, you know, he's I'm sure it'd be much more conducive for him to behave in such a manner. But unfortunately, he has a very jaundiced view of what Shiism is, and he isn't interested in any honesty and integrity. He'll continue, you know, and he lives in this type of never never land, trying his best to create this bogeyman Shia community and just present whatever book he feels like it, and mock it and laugh at it. And Alhamdulillah, we are here. You continue your stuff, Haji, and we'll continue replying to you. And now I think that concludes the first half. I have to apologize. I have had a few comments from some of our viewers saying that the content is quite explicit. Like I said, we did issue a warning. Perhaps I should have done it early on about the content being adult, because obviously Haji, as is his obsession with the genitalia, he decided to do that. So we needed to address it. That's been done now. Now we shall, inshallah, quickly whiz through the second part of the show. We have, in 2 weeks ago, we've really been looking at the fitna of Takfir, the dynamic duo. Have been very keen to try and present a united Sunni Muslim front against Shias, to say, look, we're all in it together when it comes to Shias. And he specifically mentioned in Pakistan, in Pak, the Salafia, the Barelvi, and the Deobandiya, they're all one against the Shia. All of them unanimously deemed Shias as non-Muslims. In the first part, we negated that fact, pointing out it isn't a unanimous opinion across the sects. In part two, we actually dealt with the fact that, okay, you decided to rely upon the opinion of Ahmad Raza Khan Barelvi, but Barelvi's view you as Kafirs anyway. And in this part, because he also said that Salafis also deem Shias as Kafirs, let's see today what Salafis deem. What's the Salafi position about the Deobandis? So, over to you, Sayyid Ali.
Thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share the screen for the viewers once again, and we're going to present some fatwas from Salafi scholars on what their verdict is about the Deobandi community. So the first scholar is Allama Abdul Rauf Sindhu, who's a graduate from Medina University, and he's criticizing the Deobandis' view on prophethood. For the viewers who don't know, if you refer back to our earlier episodes, we dealt with the Deobandi position on how they view the terminology seal of prophethood, Khatam al-Nabiyyin. They say that the way Muslims understand the prophet being the seal of prophethood is not like that. Rather, if there are other prophets who came after Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, it wouldn't affect him being the final messenger of God. And that's the Deobandi position. It's not something which I made up myself. Of course, they're going to try to justify this ridiculous belief. You know, who knows? Maybe there might be some sort of refutation made against this series in the future, or it could be going on now, which I don't know about, but who knows? Maybe when we finish the Deobandi series, you may see an episode about, their understanding of this word. Nevertheless, our position, as in the Shia position and the general Muslim position about the Prophet being last and final messenger is clear. And we consider anyone to be deviated who believes that, you can have other prophets coming after Prophet Muhammad, we don't consider those people within the fold of Islam. We don't consider those people Muslims because they're denying the finality of prophethood. So yes, this is the general position of all Muslims. But what's interesting is whatever justification they have for it, however ridiculous and bizarre it is, not just Muslims, as in Shia Muslims, the Barelvi Muslims, but even the Salafi Muslims, they consider the Deobandis out of the fold of Islam on their rejection of the Prophet being, on their understanding of this term about the Prophet being the last and final messenger. So that's just a way of a background in terms of, what do you call it, this particular passage and other ones which will come up, proving how Salafis do not consider Deobandis to be Muslim. So the author says, therefore, the founder of the Deobandi, Qasim Nanotvi, says, the evidence for this claim is that the prophets, if they excel the ummah, okay, so here we're talking about people excelling in virtue over prophets, because I know sometimes people raise an objection, oh, well, you Shias, you believe that the Imams are higher than the prophets. But when we talk about this, we talk about certain aspects, but again, that's a separate topic altogether. But here, what's interesting is the Deobandis have something similar, they have a similar concept. So if they're going to consider Shias not to be Muslim on that ground, then they may want to have a look at close to what Salafis say about them regarding this particular issue. So he says, the evidence for this claim is that the prophets, if they excel the Ummah nation, then it's in the field of knowledge that they excel. As for good deeds, then sometimes an ummati, meaning a person from the Ummah of Islam, at face value exceeds a prophet. So sometimes even a normal person, they can excel the prophets in certain aspects, not in knowledge, but in other areas. So this is from the book Hanafki Chand Kutab Par Ik Nazar, page number 194. And as you can see, this Salafi scholar considers them not Muslim on that basis. And that's the front page. And that's the reference for the viewers to go back and always pause on the screen. Page number 194. Okay, the next reference. This is from Zubair Alizai. And the author gives a heading, Deobandi or Qadianiyat, i.e. proving the connection between Deobandis and Qadianis, and says, Muhammad Qasim Nanotvi says, if for instance, even after the era of the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him and his family, and the prophets were to be born, then they will not make a difference to the finality of prophethood of Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. And as you can see, Zubair Alizai mentions that, you know, the relationship that Deobandis have and Qadianis is that the connection they have is that when it comes to the issue of finality of prophethood, they both have a tie, they're linked. Qadianis and Deobandis, you know, they're more closer to home than you think. In fact, some of the scholars prayed behind them. We're going to actually dedicate a show, I think, at some point between the relationship Deobandis have with the Qadianis, inshallah. This is page number 89 from the book. And I just pause it for the viewers to always go back, and they can always go back and have a look at it. And again, this is, I think I've gone too far down. Again, Zubair Alizai mentions answering one question, Ashraf Ali Thanvi's Deobandi. And then, if it's correct to attribute the knowledge of the unseen to be possessed by the Prophet, as Zaid, the questioner, asked, then it remains to be asked which one he, the questioner, refers to. Is it only part of the knowledge of the unseen, or is it complete? If he refers to part, then what's extraordinary about the Prophet in possessing it? Such knowledge of the unseen is also possessed by all, any Tom, Dick and Harry, even infants, lunatics, and all the animals and other livestock. And so basically, because of that statement that was made by Ashraf Ali Thanvi in his book, I believe it's in Hifz al-Iman, we covered it in the previous episodes. He says, on the basis of making that statement, He says, due to this and other blasphemous statements, Ahmad Raza Khan Barelvi Sahib and his followers were incensed and gave a legal ruling against the Deobandis. So what the scholar does is he brings forth the Barelvis, especially Ahmad Raza Khan being one of the founders of the Barelvi movement, ruling to say that, look, Deobandis are not Muslim because they've blasphemed, they've disrespected. Because nowadays, both parties, like the Barelvis and Deobandis, accuse each other of being Gustakh-e Rasul. One saying, you Gustakh-e Rasul, the other one saying, you Gustakh-e Rasul. So, as you can see, Ahmad Raza Khan and this Salafi scholar bringing him as evidence to say Deobandis are not Muslim because they insulted the Prophet's knowledge by comparing his partial knowledge he had with animals, lunatics, and all sorts. Page number 9, the scans there for the viewers to read. Sayyid Zaidi, did you want to mention this one?
Yes, Sayyid. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. So this one will be from Allama Badi'uddin Rashidi. Allama Badi'uddin Rashidi is a scholar. He's the Ahl Hadith scholar from Indo-Pak, and he has written a lot of refutation. It's called Shaykh al-Arabi wal-Ajam, like Shaykh of Arab and Ajam both. So such is the high status of Allama Badi'uddin Rashidi. He says in his book, Bara'ate Ahli Hadith, Abu Muhammad Badi'uddin. It's in Arabic, I think so, and it's been translated by Abu Umair Khurshid Ahmad Sheikh. So in page number 50 and 51, he says, Khatme Nabuwat ko kaun manta hai? So he makes up a heading that who believes in finality of prophethood. He wants to compare that Ahl Hadith believes in finality of prophethood and Deobandis. ख़त्म नबूवत को भी ये जिस तरह तस्लीम करते हैं वो भी आप लोगों को सुनाता हूँ। जब रसूल अल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के बाद वही का सिलसिला जारी रहा तो फिर ख़त्म नबूवत तो नहीं रही। ये मेरे पास मौलवी मोहम्मद कासिम ननोतवी बानी दारुल उलूम देवबंद की किताब तहज़ीरुन नास मौजूद है। कुरान में ये है वलकिन रसूलुल्लाहि व ख़ातमुन नबिय्यीन, रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम आखिरी नबी हैं। मुसलमानों का ये अहम अक़ीदा है कि हम कहते हैं कि आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की अज़ीम तरीन फ़जीलत है कि आप आखिरी नबी हैं, और जो कोई रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के बाद कोई नबी दूसरा नबी माने तो क्या आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम इस निआम नेहाद मुस्लिम की नज़र में ख़ातमुन नबीयीन रहेंगे? हरगिज़ नहीं। तहज़ीरुन नास सफ़ा 12 में लिखते हैं, अगर बिलफ़र्ज़ आपके ज़माने में या बिलफ़र्ज़ आपके बाद कोई नबी फ़र्ज़ किया जाए तो भी ख़ातमियत मोहम्मदिया सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम में फ़र्क नहीं आएगा। माना कि दूसरे नबी आएंगे तब भी आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ख़ातमुन नबिय्यीन हैं। फिर कैसे ख़ातमुन नबिय्यीन रहे? नबूवत की जगह को तुमने खुद तोड़ा है, इसमें तुमने खुद रखना अंदाजी की है। मिर्ज़ाई भी तो एक उम्मती ही को आगे करते हैं, आपने भी उम्मती को आगे किया है, नबी के पीछे ना। Sorry.
Sufficient. That's sufficient.
Yeah, bro. Sorry, I had to go through this whole passage. Yeah,
I know,
sorry.
it's a very interesting passage. I agree with you. So the author mentions, he says, Muslims have an important pillar of faith. As we say that the real lofty rank of the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, is him being the last of the prophets. Whoever believes that there is another prophet, then should a messenger in the eyes of the so-called believer will still remain the seal of the prophets. Khatam al-Nabiyyin, never. Okay, so he's saying that Muslims generally are proud about the fact that the prophet being the last and final messenger, and whoever believes that there's another prophet, and this is the view of the normal people. So is that correct? I'm understanding that. Sayyid?
Yes, say it. Sorry. Yeah. So, go ahead.
Can you just elaborate further on this first passage? Because is he talking about the general masses here?
Sayyid, he is comparing the beliefs of Deobandis and the beliefs of normal Muslim. He says that Muslims have this belief of finality of prophethood, and they believe that Prophet being the last prophet is a rank of
Virtue.
fadila,
Yeah, absolutely.
virtue. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now he's comparing what Muslims believe and what Qasim Nanotwi, the founder of Deoband school of thought, what he believes in.
Okay, so in Tazir al-Nas, page number 12, author Qasim Nanotwi writes, if, for instance, even after the era of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, and the Prophet was to be born, then it will not make a difference to the finality of prophethood or Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. So yeah, they reject seal of prophethood according to the Muslims, the Muslim masses, or their understanding of it.
Yeah, Sayyid, next
Let me
reference I'll read.
do this one. I can do the English. Zubair Ali Zay,
Yeah.
the author gives a heading that robbing the seal of prophethood. People that throw Hadith out of the mosques have a strange faith on the seal of prophethood. So obviously, he's talking about the Deobandis, because the Deobandis probably brought out the Hadith, or the Salafis from the masjid. Maybe in Indo-Pak countries where they could be in majority, but that type of behavior would never happen in the Middle East. They're quite, they disclose their beliefs quite a lot to Salafis. But anyway, Muhammad Qasim Nanotwi, the founder of the school of Deobandi, writes, if, for instance, even after the era of the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, and the Prophet was to be born, then it will not make a difference to the finality of Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him. And this book is called Bidati Kya Piche Namaz Ka Hukam. So obviously the ruling behind one who prays, behind an innovator. And this is the book by Zubair al-Zay, page number 24. There's the book for you guys. There's the scan. Oh, let me do this one. So Maulana Abdul Ghafoor Athari, the author, dedicates 3 pages proving Qasim Nanotwi's disbelief in the seal of prophethood and mentions all 4 famous statements. So his book is basically dedicated to showing the connection between Ahmadis and Hanafis, because there's a lot of internal takfir as well between Al-Hadith scholars, some who are totally against the concept of the bleed, some who permit it to some certain conditions. But this whole book is dedicated by the Salafi scholar proving the connection between Hanafis and Ahmadis. And then he gives 4 reasons, 3 pages proving Qasim Nanotwi's disbelief on the seal of prophethood. This is from page 139 till page 141. So the viewers, if you can speak Urdu, if you read Urdu, you can always go back and you could, especially the Salafi brothers, can go back and always benefit from these references where their own scholars have declared Deobandis be out of the fold of Islam, people of innovation who you can't even pray behind. Which again, the Brelvis as well, they had that position because they don't believe you can pray behind these. Maulana Qasim, Khwaja Qasim, Deobandi Akida is stated to the deem from the word seal of prophethood as a prophet, being the last prophet. So Deobandis have deviated on this particular issue on the term the prophet being the seal of prophethood. The correct understanding is that the prophet is the real prophet and all others are ardi, not real. Therefore, if, for instance, even after the era of the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him, a prophet was to be born, then it will not make a difference to the finality of prophethood of Prophet Muhammad. Say, am I pronouncing right? Is it? Morik Haq wa Batil?
Mordecai Haq wa Batil.
Page 527. Apologies, my Urdu is not, I'm not as fluent as Brother Sayyid Zadi, who mashallah is very blessed in having the ability to read Urdu very fluently in Arabic. So page number 527, there's the front cover, it's available online, this book. Sayyid Zadi, do you want to do the last one? Oh.
That's Ulma Deoband Kamazi, right, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, let me read it for you. So see, Said, I want you to show this the title page, please.
Okay. You know what, Said, let me skim through it because I think we may have one more. I'll save you the hassle. I can, because we're going to show
I think that's the last one, Said.
Oh, really? Okay, that's fine. No problem.
Yeah, just show the title page. I want to come in before I present this one.
The Union Jack.
Yeah, you see, like they have the Britain, the UK's flag there, bro. Here you go. So basically, see what flag there. See in Pakistan and India, in subcontinent, these scholars are being accused of supporting the invaders. I mean, like, sorry, sir.
What do you say? Supporting who?
Deobandis scholars are accused. I'm just using their language, right? So they say, oh, we are accused, our scholars are accused of supporting the invaders, right? The Britain, the people that came from Britain, Great Britain, and they had India as their colony, right? So there were people that were supporting them within the Indo-Pak community, right? And scholars like they were really good supporters of the invaders,
right?
You know, right. So that's why they have.
So what you're trying to say is during colonization of India, Pakistan, when the the Deobandis at that particular moment in time, they were very supportive of the invasion. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, Sayed. I think we can do so many shows on it, but that's the thing that we're just running short of time, right? But honestly, Ashraf Ali and Ilyas Tablighi, Ilyas Kandhalvi, and Rashid Ahmad Gangohi, these all were big supporters of the invaders. The reason I'm always mentioning invaders is that it has a negative context, right? So now you're living in UK, obviously. I don't expect you not to love your country, right? But people from Indo-Pak, when they were colonized and when they were being mistreated by invaders at that time, obviously they had really negative sentiments for ulama to support them. That's why when this Ahl Hadith scholar is writing the book, he has the Britain flag at the background. Okay, let's go through it. Name of the book is Ulama Deoband Ka Mazi, Tarikh ke Aine mein, Hakim Muhammad Mahmud Ahmad ibn Maulana Ismail Salafi. Maulana Ismail Salafi was a really famous Salafi scholar in Indo-Pak. He has written some good books. I have gone through some of his writings too. Anyways, page number 55 and page number 56. He says, कासिम ननोतवी साहब तहदीर नास पर फरमाते हैं कि बिलफर्ज बाद ज़माने नबूवत भी कोई नबी पैदा हो तो फिर भी ख़ातमियत मोहम्मदी में कुछ फ़र्क नहीं आएगा। मज़ीद सुनिए, सफ़ा नंबर 18 पर फरमाते हैं कि आपके ज़माने में भी कोई नबी हो तो जब भी आपका ख़ातम होना बदस्तूर बाकी रहता है। मुलाज़ा फरमाया, जनाब ने आपका मिर्ज़ा साहब से कितना गहरा ताल्लुक़ मालूम होता है, उसने ये मसला आपसे सीखा है। सुभान अल्लाह। और मिर्ज़ा साहब भी फरमाते हैं, ख़ातम का मायने मोहर हैं। हुजूर मोहर लगा लगा कर नबी बनाते हैं और उनकी उम्मती हिम्मत करके नबी बन जाते हैं। Go through the translation, Sayyid.
Sure. And by the way, what we're going to do, we will share the link for this live chat, inshallah. And if there's anybody who wants to join after, they're more than welcome to. And we won't be live if people are not comfortable from being live. We will be on for another 10-15 minutes, inshallah. So Hakim Mahmud Ahmad, He says, Qasim Notri, the author of Tazirul Nar, says, if, for instance, even after the era of the Prophet, may peace and blessings be upon him and his family, and a prophet was to be born, then it will not make a difference to the finality of prophethood of Prophet Muhammad. Moreover, Qasim Notri writes on page 177, even if a prophet was to be born in the prophet's own life, then it will not still keep him being the seal of the prophet. It will still keep him being a seal of prophethood intact. Did you see that? What a close connection you have with Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani? So it's making like a comment, almost like a comment and a question. Mirza Qadiani has learned this issue of prophethood from you. So Hakim Mahmud Ahmad is saying that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, he learned this, because obviously Mirza claimed to be a prophet, and he claimed prophethood for himself. He's saying that, look, Mirza, he learned this from you guys. Mirza Qadiani would say to the meaning of Khatam is just a stamp, as if via the stamp of prophet, a new prophet will be appointed, and an ummati can they become a prophet. This from the book Ulama Deobandis Mazi, page number 55 and 56. Hassan, did you want to finish on any point?
Yeah, thank you very much, both brothers, this evening, for your contributions on this segment. This really actually addresses that lovely garden of unity that was being planted by the Deobandi duo when they sought to present Shias as apostates in the learned opinion of their fellow Sunni Muslims from Deoband, from Brelvia, from the Salafis sect, all united. Really worked, has it? Because when we hold aloft the mirror and look at how they view you, the Deobandi community, if they've deemed the Shias as apostates, guess what? They deem you likewise. So please desist from these silly games where you suddenly try to get, how should we say, the seal of approval, the Shias apostates, because scholars from other sects have said the same. It doesn't work historically, alas. The truth is, the scholars of your sects have been at each other's throats, even though you're Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. You've hated each other, issued takfir against each other. And if we look at the car crash that's going on at the moment in the UK between the Brelvi and the Deobandi community, not that it really affects us and not that we care. That sums it all up anyway.
Can I just make a quick point? Because afterwards, I don't want the police to accuse me of, being, the cause of someone chopping a dog's tail off when it's having sex. Or at no point I recommended viewers to go get some big fat 7 ants and put them in some oil, jasmine oil, and rub them on your private parts, because these were just references mentioned for pure academic purposes for the show. So again, please do not follow up on any of those rulings or rulings according to their Qu'ran.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, it's like they always see in TV, when someone's doing a stunt, and before they say it, they go, please don't try this at home. I suppose, please don't try this outside or at home. But, well, actually, whatever you do at home is your business. But, you're right. We're not endorsing any acts of violence against animals in any shape or form. Thank you very much for that. So really the important thing is the fitna of takfir doesn't work. If you throw something at us, it rebounds back on you. You can see the situation going on in the UK between the Brelvi and the Deobandi communities, even though they are the adherents of Imam Abu Hanifa. So really that doesn't work. Let's move on. And inshallah ta'ala, like you've been crying, the Deobandi have been crying in one of their videos saying that they're a peaceful community and didn't want any trouble. We didn't either. You started it. If you stop, we will stop too. I think that kind of sums it up for the evening. Thank you very much. Are we going to open it up for this?
Yeah, we are.
5 or 10 minutes? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, but not live. So I just want to say Assalamu alaikum for myself, So Zeddy, do you want to send a quick salam? So Zeddy?
Yes, inshallah. Hope everyone enjoyed this episode. But most importantly, like one message to everyone that's looking at it, that don't come up with the arguments that it's already there in your book. It will create more embarrassment for you, and it will give us more opportunities to clear the doubts.
Thank you very much, Sayyid. Both Sayyids, thank you very much for this evening. Brothers and sisters, please keep us in with your du'as as we shall remember you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.